So here is a Frigidaire upright freezer. Just wanted to share some information regarding the display. If you have this light on, the door ajar with the alarm, that means your door is not sealed properly, it's not closed, maybe the gasket is bad, or it could be your switch. There's a switch on the bottom here where that empty hole is. If that's defective, it will never tell the refrigerator that the door is closed, so your alarm will go off. So you can disconnect it temporarily, take out the switch and replace it. In the meantime, you won't have the light or the alarm. Make sure you put it back, because then you won't know if the door is actually open or not. Now, regarding the high temperature, what does that mean? That's telling you that the compressor is working extra hard to work and extract the heat from inside to the outside, to the condenser coils. Now, if you notice, refrigerators have coils either on the back or underneath, and you need to keep them clean so that it can extract or dissipate the heat out to the environment outside of the refrigerator. Now, this particular unit does not have coils. It's built into the walls. It even has a sheet metal on the back that dissipates the heat. So there's nothing to clean. So if it's overheating, if it's working too hard, there's a few things you can check. One of them is, of course, the fan inside. It's usually behind this panel back here, but I can hear it. You can also feel it. You got to make sure that there's proper ventilation. It gets sucked in that way and it comes out this way. So you cannot block that or that, right? That's one thing. Do not block it. Make sure the fan is running. The other thing it could be is the compressor itself, which is behind the unit on the bottom. You can feel it. If it's warm, if you hear it humming, it should be running. There could also be a bad relay that's connected to the compressor, or bad capacitor, which is connected to it. There's videos that show you how to check that. Okay, so if that's working, the fan is working, you're not blocking the vents inside. The other thing you gotta remember, it needs ventilation all the way around. Do not block anything, okay? It needs to get rid of the heat that's from inside. That's how the freezer works. It takes the heat that's built up in there, the moisture, and extracts it out so it stays cold in there. The other thing you have to keep in mind is, where do you have your freezer? Now, I have mine in my boiler room, my furnace room, so it gets warm in here. So the way this works is, when it extracts heat, that heat has to be warmer than the ambient temperature, the temperature in the room. If the room is hotter than the heat that it's trying to get rid of, the compressor has to work harder to make it hotter, because hot goes to cold. That's the way it transfers. Hot goes to cold. So if this room is hotter than what the compressor is pushing out, it won't be able to release the heat. So the room makes a big difference as well. So if you have that light and everything checks out, make sure nothing's blocked, make sure everything is working, disconnect it. Let it defrost, because if it's high temperature, that means your coils on the inside, the evaporator coils behind that panel I showed you inside, that freezes over. It gets frost on it and it won't work properly. Okay? Another thing you gotta check inside that coil, inside, behind the panel, behind that back panel, there's a sensor that's clipped onto that coil, which tells the defroster to kick on. Sometimes that goes bad. There's videos on how to test that. So those are the things you gotta check. Ventilation on the outside, circulation of air inside, check that defrost sensor on the coil, check your compressor, which has the relay and the capacitor, and check the room where it's at. Okay, like I said, unplug it, let it sit for 1 or 2 hours. You might lose the food inside. You might be able to transfer it into another refrigerator. Let it sit for a while. Do everything I said. Check everything. Plug it back in. The other thing that's important is set your temperature at a reasonable temperature. This goes 1 through 7. I had it on 7. That's super hot. high, meaning you want this refrigerator to be, if it's freezer to be really, really cold, and it has to work a lot harder to keep it that cold. So put it on the lower setting. 3 is still good, and you see that light will eventually come off. Now, if all this fails, this could be bad too. I would think this will be the last thing to change. They don't usually go bad easily. Right? I hope one of these things help you to figure out what the problem is. Now, if your compressor doesn't kick on at all, you don't hear it running, it could be a bad compressor, it could be a leak in the system. In that case, you're gonna have to get a repairman to confirm it. It might cost a good penny, pretty penny to replace, so it might be better off just getting a new freezer. I hope these tips help you, because I've been through this many times, and every time it's a different thing on these freezers, right? Thanks for watching.